now on Instagram, going live on Facebook and YouTube. Guys, like and share this feed. This is Boss Up Talk Wednesday, also Winning Wednesday, guys. So like and share this feed. We're live on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Natalie's coming on live with me on Instagram. It's a super dope week. Definitely excited to talk to you guys this week. Natalie's coming on live. Share this with your friends, your mama, your cousin, your auntie, all them.
Yep.
Uh, all right, we have a super dope topic today. We're talking about the moment between the plan and the profit.
Yes,
Plan, the moment between the
indeed.
plan and the plan. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. This week we're talking about the moments between the promise, the plan and the promise. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's talking about the moments between the plan and the promise. That was a tongue twister. My bad for that. Guys, like and share this feed on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Got some good conversation going on for week number 78 or 79.
I think it's 79.
79, yeah. So 79 weeks you've been going live. What up? So we are talking about the moments between the promise, the plan and the promise. So let's just talk about that first off. So in business and life and entrepreneurship and planning in every phase of life, there is a moment that you have between your goals and actually like writing your goals and reaching them, from creating a plan and then executing it. There's always an in-between process. And through this process, it is very easy to be in a moment of confusion, uncertainty, anger, strife, confusion, frustration. Um, and it's just like you have to come to a place where it's like, what do I do in the in between moments of receiving, like writing my goals down and like actually receiving them? There's an in between process, and the whole purpose of that season sometimes it's not comfortable, sometimes it's not fun, sometimes it's like, God, why you got me in this ghetto? Like, what's the real vibe? Because this is not what I expected, because this is not what you said. So when you're in that in between phases, there are certain things you have to do as it relates to your mindset to really kind of pivot and prosper.
So y'all had me, y'all caught me in my in between right now. I'm like, I don't know why I started cleaning up my desk right when we were supposed to go live, and it just, and I'm not an OCD type person, so I don't know what's going on with me here today. But this in between place, this between the plan and the promise, I find so many people that come to me, right, and they have a vision, an idea, a plan, or we'll create the plan together, and then it's just like, all right, now that I've created the plan, voila, I should be making money. Clients should just be coming to me because I got the blueprint down pack. Where they at? And then they don't see that manifestation and they get discouraged. And it's like, no, baby, you have to go through this process. So you have to go through the process of not only attracting the clients and making the money, but becoming the person. So many times, the things that we need to do in the in between is to become the person that we need to be, so that when we sit in the promise, we would not forfeit it. And I know I hear people say, well, that's not always true. There are so many people that are ill prepared for a promise and receive it. You know what I mean? Like, you could think about presidents who were in the White House who were ill prepared for the presidency and they still became president, or CEOs who were ill prepared and they still became the CEO. But do you really want to use those examples as your blueprint to why you should receive something before it's time? Because many people, as we can see in the industry, as we have seen in the industry, that receive certain things before they were prepared for it, end up losing it right away. Hence, lottery winners. Prime
Oh yeah.
example, lottery winners. They don't prepare to manage money. They don't prepare to store billions of dollars or millions of dollars, whatever the lottery number is. They're just hoping and a wishing. And their plan
Mhm.
is to play that lotto. And when they win, and when they get to the place that they desire, most of them, I think it's about 70% of them, lose the money and end up in a worse predicament than they were before. So that in between time, the plan and the promise, we should be processed and becoming who we need to become, so that when we receive the promise, we won't forfeit it prematurely.
That's a very good part about that part. even in addition to that part, what I've learned just by being an entrepreneur, that if it worked out the first time, it's going to work out again. And if it seems like it's not working out, I need to learn how to pivot or what I need to learn from that situation. There, I remember in the Bible talks about how when Moses had came to the people and like, yo, it's time to go. We leaving out of Egypt, and they packed up all their stuff to uncertainty. All they knew is that they heard about this promise that was going to be fulfilled, but they heard it's going to be delivered, but it never happened. So when it came to the moment where the promise came to them, so they got the word. They knew that this was the plan. They know this is what they were told. So they were ready. Once they got up ready to leave, and they were in between the place of when they were in the wilderness, they were like, "Yo, you brought me out here because it don't look like no promised land." And there are certain times where you're in a desert place where you heard God tell you to move, you had this unction, you had this vibe, you had this strong burning desire to move forward, but now it's like something ain't the math ain't mathing, right? The math is not mathing between where you need to go and where you are. So in between those in between moments, it's like, okay, I know I'm supposed to be here. Like I know this is my promise. I know this is where I need to be, but it just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like how I thought it would feel. And in those moments you have to start reassuring yourself, right? There's something that we were introduced probably in like 2000, me and Natalie, about faith confessions, right?
Oh yeah.
So faith confessions became really big from like 2000 to 2000 and really two for us really learning it. And our mindset changed because we started to learn how to speak faith and how to start. You gotta go on mute with this paperwork. I can't take it. This I don't know what's going on with your paper machine over there, but you you got to stop. So there's a moment where I can, I deal with kids all day, so all I hear is noise all day. And I'm like, Natalie, I'm like super sensitive to sound. So no, but so the reality is when you're in the moment between, it's a process, right? Now, when you know that you have a vision, God has given you a promise, and it's just like, okay, so I'm making steps toward the promise, but there are certain things that's just not adding up. So between the moment of start making steps, and it's like a wilderness season where you're like going through the obstacles, going through the challenges. I'm like, I know I'm supposed to be on this journey, but it's just not adding up because it shouldn't feel like this. It shouldn't be this difficult. It shouldn't be this tough. But the thing about it is, the more you work the muscle of your faith through having positive faith confessions, it switches your mindset. So when you're in moments where it feels like, man, this is hard, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. When it comes to a place where it feels like, man, this ain't for me, God is like, listen, all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord. So when you start building your faith up, when you're in those wilderness seasons, you have to get to a place where you're constantly speaking faith to yourself. You're constantly speaking, like even to like these past few weeks, I've been super stressed out. And one thing about me, I don't really get stressed out. Like I'm like a roll with the punches kind of guy. But it's been such a challenge for me to be in a place where it's like I'm used to just making moves. But especially when you have a job, it's like you can't just normally make the moves and pivot. So now it's like I'm in a place where I'm frustrated because it's like stuff that makes sense to me does not make sense to everybody else. So now I have to really be at a place where I'm learning how to communicate differently, where it's like, hey, Jay, you got to take a break because you're on the right journey, but you have to calm your emotions down because your emotions, and if you don't really handle your emotions, you'll be all over the place. There's something called emotional intelligence. We spoke about it several times in the earlier parts of us doing this live, where with emotional intelligence, once you start to really think about what you're thinking about the steps you're going to make, because you got to think the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, right? So the steps you make have been ordered, but you have to know that, hey, it may not feel good, but I know my steps are ordered. Today, I don't really feel like doing this, but I know my steps are ordered. So I'm going to keep making steps of faith because there's going to be a time where I'm like, man, I see why I had to go through that, because if I never would have went through that, I never would have had the confidence or the faith or the strength to make it through this next phase, because life gets harder and harder. It's like when you're really growing, you're going to go through test to test to test. And you have to get to a place where you allow your faith to overcome your fear. Like this shirt right here says, faith over fear. Like it has to be a place where every time I feel fear, every time I feel uncertainty, every time I feel lack, I have to speak faith. Great is he that's in me than he that's in the world. Whenever there's an object that's coming in your way, you have to really start to bring it down to size. You know, like some things that are large in our life are smaller than somebody else. So for example, there may be certain things that Natalie's going through, right? But to me, it's something simple, but to her it's hard. So I'm like, Natalie, wait, this is really that hard. Look at it from this perspective. Once you change your perspective on the journey of life, you start to see that, you know what, let me use this obstacle as an opportunity to really test my faith, as an opportunity to build this muscle of faith and strength, because you're meant to overcome. But it's the point where you have to start brainwashing yourself to say, no, I'm going to believe the promise. I'm going to keep working hard. It may be hard. It's not like how I want it to be, but I know that I'm meant to accomplish this goal. I know this dream is meant for me. So I have to do the work. And I think that self-gratification where everybody wants it to be microwavable, I'm like, yo, some things you got to pay your dues with. Like there's no such thing as, oh, I made it easy. No, you have to pay your dues. When you pay your dues, there's a certain level of respect that you get in your communities that you're part of, because people like, no, this dude, like I remember when he was doing this. Like I remember when Josh was selling dinners. I remember when Josh was doing $10 plates, $10 cakes. So now when he charges $250 for this, $500 for this, $1,000 for this, there's no question about it because I paid my dues. And when you're on that journey, you start to learn things that we're going to start to, it may not be for now, but those lessons will become significant in the time that is right.
Oh, this is so good. There were so many points that you touched on, one being the emotional aspect and the other one, trust and credibility. So I want to go back to the emotional aspect first because I wrote it in the chat. Your emotions definitely need to be managed well when you are in business, because there are so many, you're dealing with people, and people are relational, and people have people problems, and they will bring some things to you that, you know, will trigger certain things within you, certain emotions within you. And if you are not a person that can manage your emotions well, you could end up losing business, or you can lose momentum in your business. You can lose traction in your business because you have not learned how to manage your emotions. So the process is a good place to be in, because you're learning along the way, right? When you have either a small audience or a small clientele, or you have small amounts of money, you're not managing billions of dollars yet, right? So if your promise is you're going to be a $1 billion business owner, and you have, you know, multiple employees, hundreds of employees, you get to manage your emotions when you have one employee, and your business only makes $25,000 a year. And you're learning how to do that along the way, so that you're not triggered in certain areas when you get to the promise. You're dealing with yourself as well, because you're a human being, and you have to allow yourself to feel the emotions that you're going through. In my academy right now, the first month, I told my clients, I was like, you have the right to have your emotions. You have the right to feel your emotions. Too many times they would try to bypass their emotion, be like, I'm not going to even deal with this right now because I got a business to run. But when they don't deal with it, the emotion keeps pulling them back. And eventually it's like they're blocked up at some point, and it takes them longer to recover and to recuperate, because they have not took that moment when they had the chance to spend 10 or 15 minutes dealing with their emotions. Now it's piled up, and you have 2 or 3 weeks where you can't move in your business. And so learning how to take care of yourself, learning how to be a safe place for yourself so that you can express how you're feeling, right? And then be able to use that as fuel for the next level is so key when you're managing a business. And then you talked about trust and credibility. We don't realize between the plan and the promise, you have to build trust and credibility with people. And that process that you're going through in front of people, behind the scenes, like you said, people are going to see you and be like, yo, I remember when, is you building trust and credibility. And trust and credibility takes time. That does not come because, oh my gosh, I have a cute product, or oh my gosh, this service, I know this service is going to help millions of people. It takes time for people to get to know you. People have been burned in the industry before, in whatever industry you're in. People have had bad experiences in a restaurant. People have bad experiences with coaching. People have bad experiences in buying a handbag. People have bad experience with Louis Vuitton and Coach. People have had bad experiences, and many people are not necessarily dealing with their bad experience and saying it is this particular thing. They actually lump it into everything. So they'll say, I won't ever buy from Coach again. I won't ever purchase another thing from a Coach again. I will never, the handbag and the Coach. I'll never do X, Y, and Z again. And here you come on the scene. I'm different than everybody else. I'm unique. And people are like, show me that you're different. Show me that you're unique. Show me that I can trust you. And that's going to take time. And we got to realize that it's not a quick fix. Trust is never quick. Trust takes time. It's quick for you to erode trust, right? You can do one thing and people are like, I ain't going to ever trust you again. But to build trust takes I don't want to say a long time, but it takes a lot longer to build trust than it is to break trust with people. And we have to give them the opportunity between the plan and the promise to, as we are walking through the process, to build trust with us, so that when they do begin to become a buyer, a customer, a client, that they will be loyal, not just to who we are, but to our brand itself. So time is good. Time is on our side.
That's good on so many different levels. Hold on one second, Natalie. Finish that point, Natalie. I gotta connect something. All right, so I think that's so dope what you're saying. Sorry about that. I had to reconnect something on my phone. But the reason why that's so pivotal is I think as an entrepreneur, in everything that I do, from teaching, from entrepreneurship, there we go. I'm sorry, I got disconnected. My bad. So now the reason why that's such a good point that you bring up is because relationships are so important. And a lot of people say the word self-made. I really feel like nobody is self-made. This is just my personal opinion, because in some form of fashion, you needed something or someone to give you a word of wisdom, a client to buy your business, whatever it is. Self-made is a very word that's it's kind of like I feel like it's like a new term almost, when it comes to that, because when you think about the word, we all need somebody else to really help us out. So we're building relations, right? With coaching, I have to build a relationship. With my clients, I build relationships. With my students, I build relations. Relationships build trust in your brand. And so oftentimes people want people to just support them. Like even when people get mad when their family don't support them, I'm like, sometimes y'all was been raggedy. That's why they don't want to support you. Where it's just like nobody's obligated to support you. The first thing I think about, so if you want somebody to support you, is your brand a trusted brand? Do people know you for what you're doing yet? And sometimes you have to reach your cold market before you go to the warm market. And you have to be so consistent at doing what you say that you do in order to make the progress. Like success is not overnight. Success is like you have to keep doing it over and over and over again. And even to, let's say, for example, is when it comes to us like making mistakes, I feel like a lot of times too is we don't acknowledge them in business. One of my friends put a post up the other day about if like an event planner comes late to an event, if an event planner is still setting up at an event, like let's say if an event started at 2, they're supposed to have it set up by like 1:30, and they're still setting up at 2:00. Should you give the client a deal or a discount? And I said, even if it's not your fault, I'm going to find a way to help the client out. So for example, earlier last year, I had a situation where a group of clients came late. A group of 20 people came late to an event, right? And then I had another client come in 2 hours after them. So it kind of cut into their time. So what I did is I offered both groups that came they're part of Switchback. I gave them all a free brunch the following week. By me doing that, because they could have been a nasty taste in them. I'm like, chef was this, chef was that. I built the trust back again by giving them their own private brunch. It was just those two groups there. Now, because I rebuilt their trust and I gained their trust again, I had my Mother's Day event. They brought 4 tables. And if you do the math, that 4 tables meant a lot because I only had like 22 tables, right? So the thing about it is when it comes to entrepreneurship, I think or just life, I think that sometimes we have to really have conversations with ourselves. Like you said, deal with your emotions. You have to be quick to handle things in your life. Like for me, if I would have let that go, like, oh well, they'll be no, I had to handle that quick. Like that night, I texted both of them. I apologize for the experience you guys had. I know it wasn't the best service. I said, but I would love to make it up to you guys. Would it be okay if I treat you guys to a brunch? They were so happy and like, yo, like you were so nice about that they're a forever client for me. And I think when you're going through those phases in life when it's like you're building trust with your brand, you have to really, even stuff that you don't want to do, like you have to go back and just say, hey, let me work this out. Like, hey, you know what? I didn't do this right this time. Let me go back and do it over again. There's something about having a spirit of excellence. The reason why David was regarded to have an excellent spirit is because he wanted to do things right. And I think so oftentimes integrity is lost in our day-to-day activities where we're just so used to, well, okay, it's all right. Like my students, they get mad at me sometimes because I'll make them do it over again because I'm like, no, that's not right. And they may go back and forth with me about it, but I know the lesson I'm teaching you is that you have to be okay with acknowledging your failures. You have to become okay with acknowledging when you're wrong about stuff. Be okay with saying, you know what, I didn't get this right, so let me do it again. Because a lot of times you're not going to the next level in life is because you're not actually taking time to edit yourself. Like I hate when my students send me a paper and it's all these typos. I'm like, yo, yeah, using Google Chrome. So why you guys aren't rewriting stuff over again? Right? Perfect one, right? This girl, Ariana, this is one of my students on live, right? So she knows that if I tell last year with her group, I had to keep talking to them over and over and over again about doing it right. Now they get it, right? Because now they want to do it right the first time because you save yourself so much time by doing it right the first time. But if you do mess up, acknowledge that, hey, I was wrong. Let me go back and let me do it over again. There's something about having a spirit of integrity. Like you could be the best at something, but if you're not integral, you lose that trust factor. And when you're trying to take your brand to the next level, you have to go over and do it right. Do it right. Like the new thing I started is I had started a new business a few weeks ago with sublimation and vinyl. Like we're doing heat press, like was one of my products. So my goal from last 2 weeks is to make 2 products a day, right? Now, the first couple products was messed up, but I said by the end of the day, I have to make 1 successful item because the thing about it is I want to make sure that when people see my stuff, they say, oh, that's perfect. Oh, that's great. I love that. And I think when you're really in a place of building culture, you're building community, you're building success, you have to be okay with in those between the plan and the promise. That's your practice round. Because when you get to the promise, people are going to like when that light shines on you, you want to make sure that those months, those years, those days you've been perfecting your skill set from the plan to the promise, that you taking time to develop your skill, develop your speech, develop your attitude problems. So if some people got an attitude problem, that's why they want to support you because you're nasty. So it's like you got to get to a place where you check yourself. Before somebody else can check me, I'm going to check myself because I'm like, Josh, that wasn't right. Like you could have did better with that one. But it comes to a place where you have to start to operate in a spirit of integrity because integrity will always outshine any skill set. Integrity will outshine any gift you have. Once you start to develop the spirit of integrity, you'll start to see doors open. Like I'll give you a perfect example. I'm doing a gig the next week in Orlando with a client, and what I was told by my client, because we trying to figure out like the price and stuff like that. She said, "Josh, I only want you there because you just gel so much with my family, and it's a pleasure to have you work with us." And and that made me feel like really good about that because I realized that a lot of times, as we're really learning our self-worth and we're learning, developing our skill set, you want to be so good at what you do and so integral about it that people want to have you on. People want to hire you. Like you become I know for some families, they won't have an event if I can't do the gig. So if I can't do the gig, I'm not available. They're like, nah, Jay, we'll move the date just because of you. My DJ friend, DJ Savage, I only do gigs with him because I know for a fact that he brings a certain flavor and he always operates in integrity and gives the best service. So when it comes to stuff that you're working on, do you give the best service? Do you give the best quality? Do you give the best experience? Because oftentimes, if you're not giving your best, don't be surprised when people don't want to come back to you again. You have to operate in a spirit of integrity that people know that you're not only the best at this, you're going to give the best service. You're going to be the most committed. You're always going to show up on time. Like for a long period of time when it came to gigs, like I wasn't showing up on time. So I said, no, Jay, you got to be on time. So I had to take time to say, no, let me give myself a cushion. Let me give myself you're not able to join Natalie on here. I don't know why. You have to be okay with just really doing things the right way. Until you start doing things the right way, you know, you can't wonder why people not supporting you. Like there's certain people that will love to support your brand, but you have a negative reputation. Reputation is everything when it comes to your skill set. You could be the most talented singer, but then they say, oh, they got a nasty attitude. You could be the best life coach, but you don't have a nice attitude, or your paper's not together. You could be the best chef, but if you don't have certain things in place, people can't use you. You have to show up to a place where you are not only the best at what you do, you give the best service. You're the most pleasant. You're the most kind. People just love how you just take your time to pay attention to details. But it takes you operating in the moment where you're between the plan and the promise. Practice being excellent. Practice being on time. Practice being the best. Don't just say, oh, I'm good at this, I don't got to show up and practice. I still practice recipes every day because I want to show up the best. Like with my students, we're always doing testing different things because we want to find out what is the best way to get this done. And you know what? There are new techniques that come in and say, hey, you know what? This was the best for the early 2000s, but when it comes to 2024, this is not the best system. So what do I do to always pivot and stay on top of the game?
Oh, I love that. I love that you talked about being the best and using that was beautiful. Between the plan and the promise is practice.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought that's phenomenal. And I'm gonna have to really hold on and hone in on that because like you said, showing up and being the best, like you have to double down on and the integrity, right? That integrity piece trumps every other gift. I will take somebody who is lacking in skill set if they are integral any day over somebody who's gifted but who's not who has no integrity, right? I don't, if I had to choose, I'm choosing integrity. We can figure out some things later on. So that's number one. I really, really, really love that you went about saying that. And then even the fact that we have to practice and get better at who we are, because the one thing that I love about entrepreneurship, right, that is difficult, especially in the beginning, is there's no cap to how much money I can make. As a corporate employee, there's always a cap. Even with us in education, right? They would say at 65, this is the most you can make. You can't make no more. Or if at 20 years or something like that, this is the most you can make. You can't make no more than this. It's not like I'm going to continue to make, if I work 25 years, or if I work 30 years or 35 years or 50 years, I'm going to be able to make more. And it's also connected to the time that you have in. So they have a cap on how much we can make in our salary in a corporate job. But with entrepreneurship, I'm my own cap.
Mm-hmm.
I got to figure out how can I scale my own business? What do I need to add in order to make more money? And the more arms and legs and people and whatever the case may be that I add into this thing, I can make more money. It's like, come on, baby. If I'm my own cap, the sky is literally the limit based on my mindset and what I am willing to do, how good I'm willing to become in the area of my expertise. And sometimes that requires you becoming really hyper focused on that one thing and getting and relinquishing your rights to do everything within your business or everything within your home or within your scope that you're good at, to say, I'm going to just dial in on what I'm great at, and I will hire and source out all the other things that I'm just good at. Like entrepreneurship really has no cap for us. The sky is the limit.
And you know, that's my thing. So for me, like I started my business when I was 10. And the reason why it's so pivotal is because I only know entrepreneurship. I've worked jobs, but when I feel that it's like it's time to go, I don't have no loyalty to any job. I don't have loyalty now, now I'm loyal to my students, but a job, and this is why I'm saying that. There are a lot of times, and look at recessions, look at like during the pandemic, look at if they couldn't afford you, if they didn't want to pay you, you gone. So when it comes to stuff like that, it's like you have to be so strategic about how you move. Be in a place where you're irreplaceable, but be in a place where you can replace something else. right? And the thing about entrepreneurship that I love, and it's no shade to anybody about that, but it's like once the vibe is like mess with my mental or is not serving me anymore, I have to be okay with moving, because you're at a place sometimes where you're giving all you got, or you're giving all your best, and honestly, your best will never be good enough for them. And you have to realize that, hey, let me focus on what I know to be true. I know for a fact as an entrepreneur, my productivity determines my prosperity. My productivity determines my prosperity. Literally, for like after I get on live, I'm about to record content because one, I'm about to work on dropping a new e-course for 2024. I'm working on my vision board party. I'm working on doing a sale for my clients. So for me, it's like, yo, the more I work, the more I determine my now sometimes that could be a little testy, because especially when you first starting out, when you don't have that clientele base, is like, wait, hold on, I might need this job for a few more months. Let me be real. Let me plan out these paychecks along with my level of faith. But if you think about it, and there's nothing wrong with having a job. Like, jobs are great, jobs are dope, gives you insurance, all that good stuff. But you have to realize that in those 40 hours, if you donate to your time at least 20, what can you really do? Right? Like, I know when at one school, I think they was for after school, they was doing like 35 an hour. I'm like, I'm not trying to be funny, but it's like on my own personal gigs, I pay myself at least 3 to 4 times that amount, because I know for a fact I can write my own ticket. One of my friends right now, they're a flight attendant, and we were talking about just like how it's not really enough money in there. And I said, hey, use the flights to do this, but I need you to start working on doing a coaching program for restaurants, because you're gifted in the area of having a serving business, showing people about HR and sign up for that. Like, I think you have to learn how to supplement your income, because once you start to think like an entrepreneur, you move differently, right? I know for a fact when I was working at the Hyatt and I was like 17, I would count them hours. I know I got to pay this, but I need to work this amount of overtime. I got to work this day, because I know if I work over 40 hours, I get time and a half. Like, that was like, yo, bro, like, I'm not trying to be funny, Josh. Like, in that moment, I was making like $13.50 an hour when I was like 17. I'm like, yo, Jay, you can literally go make a cake and sell it for $70, which means that you can make that cake and get it done in 3 hours, divide that by 70, which is cost of goods sold, and you actually made about 30 an hour, versus you slaving to make 13 something an hour, and after taxes down to like 10. Like, there's so many different things. Like, yo, you have to get to a place where it's like, yo, determine what your time is worth. When I get up in the morning, I determine what I'm worth. When you go to a job, you allow them to determine what you're worth. Now, if you got to kind of finagle certain things to make it work, it's nothing wrong with that. But you have to be so strategic. Say, listen, I am worth more. I am worth more than this. Like, I love educating, but I realized for me, I can't do after school stuff anymore, because that messes up. Like, that's too much for me. I have to know that at 3:05, Josh, he shuts down. He works on Chef Jay's Encounter. He works on Boss Up Bootcamp. He works on everything that serves the purpose that makes me what I want to make. And you have to be like, between a plan and a promise, I have to determine what works for me in this new season. Because when I created the plan, I might have been 1,000 there, but I'm trying to go to a millionaire set. I have to be able to learn how to pivot to where I want to be. So, for example, is when I first started, I was selling cakes and certain platters that was $10. But now you can't ever get that from me again. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just I had to take time to develop my skill set. Like, I remember my girl Ghana just got online. I used to cook out of her crib. Ghana, I used to sell plates. I used to stuff like that. But I said, you know what? Working with Ghana was very big for me, because I know when I worked with Ghana, I started to think bigger about dinner parties. You know what? Selling plates was good, catering was good, but let me do dinner parties where I can charge X amount of dollars, offer an experience. And from that moment, I started to cultivate doing that, from that plan to manifestation, that promise. I started to cultivate skill sets. I started to learn more about me. I started to learn more about my gifting. I started to learn about, you know what, I'm a chef, but how can I move in this area? How can I move in this area? And once you start going from the plan to the promise, you start to be a student of life every day, a student of business. And now when I show up now, I show up as the expert. When Natalie shows up, she don't just show up as Natalie, the mom CEO anymore. She shows up as the clarity coach, because she's taking time to better herself every day. That when she shows up to the market from the plan that she first created, then now she's experienced manifestation. So now she's seeing those 4-figure months, the 5-figure months, because she took time to really focus on, hey, you know what? I can do this. Let me work on this. I can really do this. Like, when Natalie became the clarity coach, I remember that. And she wrote like her second book. And now she's like, oh, let me offer coaching programs. Let me offer this. And now Natalie is in a more comfortable space, because she took time to really work on the plan as it, I need to pivot. Let me edit this. Let me edit that. So now when she shows to the market, she's the best at what she does. And what areas of your life can you start showing up as the best in that area? What moments can you show up excellent in your life? What areas can you show up as, you know what? I know today I was slacking off. Tomorrow, I'm going to be the best at this. What value will you add to your community, to your circle? What value are you going to start adding? Because some people, you wonder why nobody wants to support you. You don't show any value. So in what areas can you start working and start showing value? And that's the vibe for 2024. I'm adding value. I'm listening faith over fear, and I'm adding value because my faith is inspiring me to be the best, to operate in a spirit of excellence.
I feel like we need a quote for add value, because I'm like, that's the value for 2024. All we do is add value. And when you add value, money follows. That's period. Good. That's it.
That's good. That's you it. Add value to money follows. And that's so true. I just encourage everybody on the live, on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, who's going to watch it later. Remember that in every room, you should be adding value. Not saying you gotta be the smartest, you don't gotta be the brightest. Just say, you know what, my value may just be adding a smile to this room. Let me be the best smile that there is, that when people see me, their day just changes. You gotta be like that usher at church, where when you show up, you give the best hugs, you give the best joy. You know, and you know what, Ghana said this part too. I love this part. Like, Ghana is my big sister. I met her through my music teacher when I was in 6th grade, and she's become like a big sister to me. And Ghana, through any resource that she had, literally Ghana had a whole half of her basement because she used to do performances and stuff like there. And she said, what, you need this, you need that. When you show up valuable, people will add to that naturally because they really believe in you. And it's a blessing that when you really show up like being excellent at what you do and you're really trying, what you need is always waiting for you. But sometimes we're so afraid to just show up and rise to the occasion. Show up for yourself, and you'll be surprised what you need is in the room. Ghana opened up my business to all of her clients. And Ghana had thousands of people coming to her events at different times that she built up. So it became such a perfect pair because she needed the chefs to start doing food. And I just started to show up with my best self. And she's like, Josh, that wasn't right. You got to work on this. Josh, you got to edit yourself on this. So she was in my ear like, yo, you need people who's going to edit you along your journey. And I think that's it, because I know Natalie got to leave. So guys, listen, if you're looking for coaching, on clarity, hit Natalie up. She has some e-courses available as well too. I have some e-courses on how to find your purpose. And going into 2024, if you need coaching, reach out. If you need help, just say, yo, Jay, Natalie, I need help. I don't know where to start. I don't know how to start. This sounds good to me, but I don't know where to start. I don't know anything about this. This has never been a thing. I wasn't raised around it. I don't know nobody. Yo, closed mouths don't get fed. So if you want to move forward into your next season, ask for help. What's up, man? You got anything else?
And don't discount yourself. You may think that it costs too much, and it may be exactly how much you can afford. Some people be doing that. I remember I used to do that. But like, oh my God, one of my coaches, I was like, she's too big. I'm not going to be able to afford her. And when I got the courage to go on her website to see, I was like, that's it? That's all she's charging? I'm about to book a session. And I booked a few sessions, and now I'm in a space with her where I get lifetime access and I don't have to pay any more money. Like, that's what we're talking about. Don't discount yourself because you think something may be something that it's not really. Check it out. Ask questions. Closed mouth, like Chef said, don't get fed.
Ask for help. Ask for help. You will get so much breakthrough if you start asking for help. God put people in your life. Stop being prideful. Like, stop it. And my mom had especially too, like my mom had to we just take pride in what we do. And my mom said, don't ask that person that thing. I said, no, I'm going to ask because they are a solution to my problem and I may be able to help them out. So don't think that you're not getting no value back from Chef, because I'm going to give you the same value you've given me. You know, one of my greatest coaches, I love Dr. Stacia Pierce. I started coaching with her by using the value of my food. Dr. Jewel, I started using my cooking skills. And honestly, the food is what got me into the door. So sometimes your gift will always make room for you. All you got to do is just show them and say, listen, you know what? I may not have this, but this is what I have. How can I add value to me? And how can we barter maybe something? Like, you just never know who needs your help. So that's it, guys. Have a wonderful week on purpose. Reach out to us in the DM if you need help. It's time to pivot. 2024 is right around the corner. And listen, you got 2 more weeks to end it dope as I don't know what. All right, fam. We out.